Hey guys, welcome back to the BlockHash podcast, episode 250 today. We have Iris. She's the co-founder of Koia. We're going to talk a lot about some really cool assets and NFTs and how they can be bought and sold through the platform. Iris, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. To get started, tell me in the audience a little bit more about yourself. What did you do before Koia? What do you do now with Koia? And what's your overall experience been like coming up through the crypto industry?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Iris Teije. I am one of the co-founders of Koia. And what we're doing at Koia is we're opening up access to alternative assets, starting with collectibles. So think of assets like watches, whiskey, art, mostly physical assets, but also blue chip NFTs. And how we are opening up access is via fractionalizing these assets. So instead of needing £50,000 or 100,000 or maybe even like $1 million to buy an expensive painting, you now only need $50 to get started through our fractional ownership mechanism. And how we're doing that fractionalization is by using NFTs. So we're linking multiple NFTs to one underlying physical asset. And I can go into a little bit more about how it works in a minute, but that is the short overview. And in terms of my background personally, I've been in startups for most of my career, primarily fintech. So before Koia, I helped build a digital bank based out of Hong Kong, was the first employee there, helped the founders grow the business, mostly focused on business development, marketing, was there for about 5 years, and then decided to move on and set up my own company together with two co-founders, Richard Draper and Ben Riazi. So my co-founder's background is one of them is coming more from a tech background, and the other one more from a finance and investment background. And yeah, how did I get into the crypto blockchain space? So for us, we were really interested in these, in opening up access to these alternative assets, helping people get access to assets and things that they're passionate about, that they understand, things that they normally cannot get access to and that are normally very, very out of reach. And then for us, the blockchain element, the NFT element, tokenization element, that was just a way to enable what we wanted to do. So it's not necessarily the case of, okay, we want to start a crypto startup. It was really around how can we give people access to these items that are normally so out of reach, and looking at lots of different options how we could do that. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a straightforward path. We looked at different ways to enable this, different legal structures. Obviously, the legal element is a big part of this as well. So how can we make sure that everything is compliant? And we just ultimately found that linking NFTs was the most suitable, most scalable way to enable this, and also allowing people to not only buy fractions but also to trade these fractions then easily. NFTs were just the most suitable option to accomplish our mission.
Nice. Yeah, I think the inspiration is very similar for a lot of projects where they want to create more inclusivity and accessibility for people around assets, whether traditional or non-traditional. So that's really awesome what you guys are doing. How are you doing it though? What type of assets are you guys looking to make more accessible through NFTs? And then how does that process work? How do you guys go about making them attached to these NFTs?
Yeah, so in terms of the assets that we're starting with, so if you go to our website, our platform, you can check out some of the assets that are currently live. So we've got at the moment we've got a watch, Pokemon card, or a box of Pokemon cards, and an exclusive collectible whiskey. So these are the sorts of assets that we're starting with. But the idea is to be multi-asset class and be very much driven by our community. So what is the community interested in? But then also there's just two other elements to that as well. So one of them is, what is the community interested in? Also, what's sort of the investment rationale? Like, do we believe that this asset has a potential to, go up in value? And then thirdly, of course, also the sourcing element, because at the moment, Koia, together with our experts and then partners, we take care of the sourcing. So we also need to make sure, of course, that we can get access to really high quality supply. And then how it works is that so Koia identifies assets, we source it, we authenticate it, then we also take care of the storage and insurance. And Then we link NFTs to these assets. So it can be, there's no fixed amount. It can be 100 NFTs linked to an asset or 200 NFTs. Once it's fixed, it's set, but it depends on the underlying asset value. If we've got an asset as $1 million, probably we're going to link more NFTs to that than an asset that is $100,000, just to keep the price of the NFT accessible. And so how it works is users either sign up via email, or if they already have a crypto wallet, they can connect their MetaMask or other sort of wallets. Then they can browse through sort of the assets that we've got on the platform. They can buy a fraction starting from 20 USDC. If the user doesn't yet have USDC in their wallet, we've got a on-ramp provider that helps users convert their regular dollars or pounds into USDC. Then they can mint a fraction, and then the fraction is in their wallet. Either the user can hold that fraction until the asset is sold, or they can trade the fraction. One other like sort of last point to note is this is also always a common question. Like, okay, so how do you guys decide when this asset is going to be sold? So that is based on a user vote. So the token holders, they get a say, and it's a decisive say in terms of, let's say we get a buyout offer. Okay, do the token holders approve, yes or no? If the majority approves, the asset would be sold, and then the NFT holders, they would get their proportional proceeds. If someone holds 1 out of 100 NFTs, they'd get 1% of that sale.
Got it.
So that is that's it in a nutshell.
Cool. That's a good overview. Is it all these assets curated by you guys in particular, or do you allow this to be more community driven? Do you have people come and sell their assets through the platform on their own independently? Or what's the structure look like, or where are you guys at with that?
So at the moment, the assets are curated by us together with experts. So, for example, we've also got we recently started with our own YouTube channel as well. So we've got you can see some content that we've done with experts. So, for example, on the whisky side, we're working with a whisky broker in the UK called Mark Littler. So he's advising us in terms of what assets to source on the whisky side. On the watch side, we're working also with an expert, Justin Hast. So at the moment, we are curating it together with these experts. In the future, we do want to become more open. At the moment, we are open to, of course, community feedback, but it's not necessarily a marketplace where people can just go and list something themselves. Reason why we're not starting out as a marketplace is because, as any startup founder or any business-minded person will probably know, two-sided marketplaces are always difficult because you don't have users yet, so no one wants to sell on your marketplace, and so there's always this chicken and egg. So we decided, okay, in the first year, we will take care of the supply side, and we will take care of having interesting assets on the platform. So we don't have to worry about attracting suppliers in that sense, and we're just going to worry about getting the users. In the future, we might want to open that up and become more of a marketplace.
Yeah. Do you have a defined milestone that you guys want to hit before you begin to open it up as an actual marketplace like this?
So we've got we've got a couple of numbers in our mind in terms of, okay, we want to have sold a certain number of assets, but there's also another element there, which is around processes and authentication, because if we are sourcing from professional sellers only, what we're doing at the moment, let's say the whiskey, we've bought it from Diageo's official retail partner, so there's no question about authenticity. When you become a marketplace, there's a lot more work that needs to be done to make sure that this item is authentic. So again, it adds some operational complexity. So we're not there yet. So it's a process. I would say that's probably going to come over the next 6 to 12 months.
Got it. What does your vetting process look like for an asset that you want to back with an NFT? You don't have to go into too much detail if it's like proprietary or anything, but kind of, I guess, in a nutshell, take the whiskey, for example. How do you determine that a bottle of whiskey is something that's valuable for people to invest in, or that it's going to go up over time? Do you look into the history of that product in particular? Do you look into past market value or trade value that it might have had or could have in the potential future? What's the process look like?
A couple of different factors. I mean, if we're taking the example of the specific, like the whiskey that we recently launched, this there's a couple of reasons why we decided to purchase that specific item. The historical returns for whiskey have been really strong, so it's been over 400% return the past 10 years for rare whiskeys, and even stronger for this particular distillery. Also, this distillery, Brora, it's a distillery that was closed, had been closed for many years, and it was just bought by Diageo last year, and they really want to invest in the distillery and the brand. So it's expected that as they're doing that, and as they're going to spend a lot on marketing, awareness is going to only increase, and that would drive up potentially the value of these older whiskeys. It's one of 300 sets, so it's relatively exclusive. So we're looking at these kinds of characteristics. Then we also take into account expert advice and opinions. So as I mentioned, for example, the whiskey expert that we are working with. And then thirdly, there is of course also more of a data-driven approach. So my co-founder Richard, as he's got a background in wealth management and he used to work at a hedge fund, so we also are looking to bring in more of that quantitative and data-driven approach, because I would say today a lot of the collectibles market is still driven by, there's still a lot of opinions or experts, and I think that is really important because they are deeply ingrained and they know a lot about the space, and they might have insights that not everyone has. So I think those things, those opinions are really important to take into account. But definitely we want to combine that, or we are combining that with also a more data-driven approach.
What blockchain are these NFTs being created on, or which one are you building this on as a backbone?
Yeah, so we've built our solution on Polygon. A couple of reasons for that. The main reasons are costs. Because our NFTs are not are accessible, we wanted to keep things accessible, so we didn't want to set the price too high. So some of our NFTs are $20 or $50. So of course it doesn't make sense if then the gas fees would be $30 to buy like that $20 NFT. So yeah, we really wanted to keep the we wanted to find a solution with low gas fees, but also that was EVM compatible. So ultimately, landed on Polygon.
Got it. Do you have a way of maybe categorizing these different types of assets? So maybe the whiskeys can go in like a spirits section of different assets, and then maybe cars go in auto and watches go in accessories. Is that like what you eventually see it panning out to be, having all these different categories of maybe non-traditional assets that people can buy? Or do you want it kind of random and exciting, or what's the organization structure of this?
Yeah, so we want to be multi-asset class, so we're going to have different categories on a platform, similar to other sort of e-commerce type marketplaces that are not necessarily related to fractional or investing. I do think, as you say, it makes sense to focus on a couple of categories, because the more random items you add, because what we've noticed as well is, let's say watches or whiskey, as I told you, we need to find experts to help us, so we cannot branch into 20 different categories because it would just be too much. It's better for us to focus on a couple of different areas, create content around those specific asset classes, gather expertise, find users who are interested in that asset class. And then of course you can cross-sell them different kinds of assets as well. But yeah, the idea would be to, for this year, focus on 3 to 5 different asset classes, expand that as we grow, but there is a limit. Of course, we cannot just add quote unquote random assets.
Got it. Yeah, absolutely. What does the on ramp kind of look like overall? I know we kind of talked about it briefly, but there's generally 2 classes of people in crypto: the people that are inclined and the people that are uninclined to purchase NFTs. Have you thought about those potential different on ramps and how people will be able to purchase these and participate in buying a fractionalized asset?
Yeah. So at the moment we have got an on-ramp provider. So how it works is the user signs up if they don't have any crypto yet or don't have any USDC. They get to see a pop-up where they're asked to use their bank transfer or credit card to top up their wallet. This is of course taking away some of the friction, but in my opinion, I mean, we also try to stay critical and always push for things to be better. I think, it's actually, maybe it's not, or not maybe, it is probably not good enough yet, because as you say, people want, especially the people who are new to Web3, they wouldn't necessarily accept any sort of friction. So the ideal flow for me would be that, there's no need necessarily to convert fiat to crypto or to stablecoin and then buy the NFT. Ideally, it would just be like a pure sort of e-commerce type checkout where you just see a fraction. We don't necessarily even need to use the NFT wording. It's just like, oh, I want to have a fraction of this Rolex. It's $100, for example. You press buy, use Apple Pay, and you've got the fraction in your account. That would be the ideal sort of checkout that we're working towards.
Got it. Have you guys experienced any type of concern or hurdle in regards to regulation in doing this? Has it limited you guys in your ability to do this in Europe or access other markets like the US market? What's your experience been like so far?
I mean, obviously regulation is always, for any fintech, crypto business, regulation is always going to be something that is really important, and something that we spend quite a bit of time and money on. So when we started out with this idea, we had a couple of different paths in mind, one of them being the one that we're doing now. But actually it was really difficult for us to find the right lawyers that really understood this area, because it's already NFTs are really new. Then, specifically what we wanted to do, even more new and even more niche. And we didn't want to work with, we wanted to work with like a very reputable like law firm. So it took time. So what happened in the meantime, just because it took us a while to, find the right type of lawyers, in the meantime, we actually had been thinking and working on another structure that we ultimately didn't pursue, but spent quite a bit of time on, which was more of a crowdfunding structure, which is more similar to, we've got a couple of competitors in the US that are working in a similar space. So for example, one of them is Masterworks, focused on fractional art investing. And what they're doing, and what some of the other US players are doing, is they're putting an asset in a company, and then investors can invest in that company. But the problem is that, you're going to end up with hundreds of companies potentially, which comes with a lot of overhead, a lot of work to manage it. So we thought this is not really ideal. It's much better, much cleaner, much cheaper, much more scalable to run this with all of the new possibilities that crypto is now been providing us with. But we didn't want to pull the trigger on doing it before we knew that it's compliant. We're not breaking any laws, which now, based on our legal advice that we've gotten, we're comfortable and confident that we're not. And actually the big advantage of doing this NFT structure is that it is actually more flexible in terms of where we are allowed and able to sell this product, because we're at the moment we're open to international users. We are able to sell in pretty much any market aside from sanctioned countries or countries where NFTs are just completely banned or stablecoin is completely banned. But open to most users in the world, which is a big advantage of using this structure. Things might change. The regulation is moving pretty quickly. NFTs might become more regulated, but for the moment, we are able to sell in most countries around the world.
That's good. And being able to avoid a lot of those restrictions is kind of nice. It's definitely an issue in the space where things get a little over-regulated sometimes. Happens with new frontier and innovative technologies like blockchain, what you guys are doing. Let's talk about logistics for a second. Let's say someone buys that bottle of whiskey, or they invest in that bottle of whiskey. Is it possible for them to buy the whole thing?
So if someone would buy all of the fractions, they would become the legal owner, and we'd be able to ship it to their house or wherever they want to ship it to. And in terms of logistics at the moment, sort of where it's stored, we're working with 2 storage locations. One for like wine and whiskey, because it has to be kept in specific like temperature, humidity conditions. And then we've got another storage location that is for just small valuable items like watches or the trading cards. At the moment, both of these locations are in the UK. probably as we expand and we're going to source from different places, probably we'll have more source, or we're going to have more storage locations around the world. But at the moment, yeah, these are in the UK.
Got it. Does logistics at the moment restrict some of the assets maybe you'd want to list and get into, like cars, for example? Maybe you guys want to list luxury cars or classic cars that might hold their value very well or go up over time. Logistically, that might be difficult to export to a certain country. Is that something you guys kind of stay away from for now that might be difficult to fulfill? Is there a specific genre of assets you guys want to focus on in regards to
Yeah,
logistics?
I mean, actually, you gave a really good example, because
Okay.
cars, we were looking at, what are our users interested in, and that's a big factor in deciding what we want to put on the platform. So let's say watches is something that our community is really interested in, which is why
Mhm.
it's one of the categories we're focused on. But cars is a really good example, because that's another category that our community has been saying, that they're interested in. But we decided not to start out with that category, exactly because of some of the reasons that you mentioned. Storage is a bit more challenging. It's expensive. Also, maintenance is pretty, or can get pretty expensive, which means that, you know, you have to take all of these costs into account. So of course you can charge users more fees, but then, I mean, no one likes paying fees, and also maybe it doesn't make sense if you have to pay that many fees if the asset doesn't go up that much in value. Ultimately, you're not really making any money. So yeah, there are definitely some asset classes that are more challenging from the operational and logistical point of view.
Got it. Let's zoom out for a second. I want to get your opinion on NFTs a bit more broadly as well, especially NFTs that have more utility. What are your thoughts on where the industry's at in regards to NFTs as a token? And then do you think that utility is going to really bolster this niche in blockchain and give it a lot more value? Obviously, you're in this line of business,
Yeah.
but I guess the type of utility matters too.
Yeah, so I would say we're still, I mean, obviously we're still very early. If you're looking at the statistics of how many people have actually bought an NFT, it's still like such a small percentage of the population. And I do think that utility is going to change that. And, it's not only going to be about collectibles or fractional ownership, what we're doing. That's just one, that's just one area. But I think there's a lot of other areas where NFTs can be used, that are more, or where NFTs can be applied in cases that are more than just digital art. So, for example, I think when it comes to physical assets, authenticity and provenance is an interesting one. So tracking assets throughout their supply chain, or keeping track of what complex transactions with real estate, I think are an interesting use case. There's one company in the US called Propi that is working on that. I think another area that I find very interesting. I'm actually doing an event about it next week. Not very related to Koia at all, but it's around music and NFTs, artists. How can artists leverage NFTs tokens to monetize their work, sponsor creating new work, and also in a way that makes sense for fans, like that they're getting something out of it, that they're getting something back, whether that's in the form of financial rewards, or it could also be in the form of getting benefits, getting access to a special concert or meet and greets. I think we're now also just about to start seeing more traditional industries looking at NFTs. So, for example, restaurants, coffee shops, gyms, how can they benefit and from this new technology? How can they get people to buy into memberships, or perhaps longer term memberships, and charge slightly higher prices, because as a token holder, as a member, I know, okay, if I ever move cities, at least I can just sell this NFT, and it's going to hopefully retain its value. And then it's obviously good for the cash flow of that business as well. So I think we're going to see a lot more use cases that are just more familiar to people, and that are not all about speculation.
Absolutely. The revolution is coming. I can feel it already with NFTs. Do you guys have a community like a Discord or Telegram where people were go to chit chat about, Koia or what you guys doing?
Yeah, so we've got a Discord. The link is on our website. I'll share it as well, so you can add it later in the YouTube comments
Mhm.
or description. So yeah, that is where we are communicating with our community.
Perfect. Social media, where can people find Koia and learn a bit more? Just the website. I
Yeah,
saw there's
so
a Twitter, Facebook.
our website is joinkoia.com, and then our social handles are in there, but it's easy to remember because
Okay,
all of them are just join Koia. So that's
perfect. What about yourself?
easy
Can
to
people
find.
find you?
Yeah, so you can also find me on Twitter. So that's just my name. I'll write it out in the comments or in the chat here as well.
Cool. Guys, be sure to go follow Iris, go follow Koia, and check out what they're doing. Make sure to like the video and subscribe as well. And Iris, thank you for taking the time to come on the show. I really appreciate it. A lot of detail. Very cool what you guys are doing. I really do think it's the future direction for NFTs and providing more value. And it's cool getting into fractionalization and more non-traditional assets. So thank you for the time and the explanations in detail.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, Brendan. And yeah, if any of the listeners have questions, feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, we're happy to chat.
Perfect. Stay on for just a second and we'll chat. Anyways, we will see you again in the future on the show.